Welcome back, everyone, to another Trade Alts update. Today, we are going to go take a quick look at Bitcoin and kind of how the market has been while I've been away, been on vacation. I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But I do want to cover Bitcoin, cover a little bit of crypto, and more importantly, talk about my trading bots and give everybody an update there, because I know I've been getting a lot of DMs asking me to do a video update, kind of like what I've been up to, how I've been managing my bots. So that is what this video is going to be about. Let's get to it. All right, so a little bit of announcements, a few announcements, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the video. Since it's been a little while since my last update, all the technical analysis tutorials that I have, I'm going to make public. So all of the ones that have been on YouTube, but they're unlisted. Obviously, if you're in VIP, you've had access to all this stuff. That group did close in May. Obviously, the group is still active. All I did was make it free, but it's a closed group at the moment, considering possibly opening it up again. But we still do live streams in there. I just had a couple-hour live stream the other day, and again, really good conversations take place in there. So it's definitely where, again, I spend a lot of my time. But all the technical analysis tutorials that have been available there, that I've been slowly making available, I'm going to speed up the process here and start releasing a lot more of that stuff. So if you've been waiting for those videos, just pay attention, be on the lookout, make sure that you have that you are subscribed to the channel, that we will get notified as soon as I do release those. If you're interested, which, by the way, I'm almost at 30,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which I greatly appreciate, every single person. I think I'm a few hundred away. So if we could get to 30K, I would be ecstatic about that. And then there is a link in the description below if you're interested. Femex is offering up to $3,600. Again, the link's in the description. I use Femex, love the exchange, no issues. And there's a lot of awesome trading pairs there. It's where I do my trading. And so if anybody's interested in that, I want to spend too much time on this particular video talking about that. But just a little bit of kind of a catch up. I've been on vacation, basically took the summer off from doing, a lot of video updates and stuff like that. Just been spending a lot of time with my family, had my house remodeled. So it's been kind of crazy anyway. It's not the best environment to try to do videos in, because I would have had to take, I would have to do 100 takes probably just to do a simple video with all the noise that was going on. So it was just a good time to kind of step away from it, recharge the batteries. But I'm definitely back now, so I'm looking forward to kind of like getting back to it. And then, so again, with this video, we're going to get into Bitcoin here in just a second. You're already looking at the screen, obviously. And then we're going to kind of use that as a segue to get into the trading bots and discuss how I've been, basically like what my strategy has been this year, and kind of like what I'm continuing to do, like what is my actual current strategy. But I think understanding how the market has been, which I think most of you probably are aware how the market has been, but just kind of like how I view the market and kind of like what I'm looking for to potentially take place, here shortly. I think, again, it's going to dictate how I manage my bot. So I think it's really important that you understand where I'm coming from there. So anyway, let's get to Bitcoin without further ado. Right, so here we have Bitcoin USDT on the daily time frame, and I have this massive green arrow here. I'm gonna actually delete this, but I will get into that signal. It is actually a pretty important signal, which I've talked about before on previous videos. But this one, when these types of signals tend to flash and show themselves, I definitely pay a lot of attention to them because they have a relatively high hit rate. So this is why I chose to do this video today. First, I'm gonna start off on the 12-hour. So basically here, this was a time frame that I had spoke to the VIPs about, and I was very adamant about watching this particular time frame because it was basically kind of giving us a bit of a heads up as to what price would essentially, could essentially be doing before, the daily was really kind of giving us much of anything. So the 12-hour time frame, again, was really important. It was basically somewhere back here. We were in VIP in voice chat, and a member had actually asked a question, and I think it was the 4-hour chart that got brought up. It was a 4-hour Ichimoku cloud. Went ahead and took a look at it, but I did a full explanation of why the 12-hour was more important to me. And funny enough, it actually worked out quite well. We had a bit of a channel here, so I'm going to try to do this from memory. something roughly like this. Doesn't have to be perfect, but basically, again, we had a nice channel here that fit really nicely with the cloud. So again, break above, that would very likely be bullish, and we'd be looking for continuation at, you know, probably substantially higher targets at that point. That obviously didn't happen. Nice resistance. And on the flip side, if price were to break down below cloud and also lose this channel support here, then you would be looking for lower prices, essentially what happened. So that's one of the kind of like points of confluence here, and why I like the 12 hours so much, because it actually fit within that channel that we had started paying attention to very early on, once we kind of noticed that price was starting to kind of give you a nice channel to trade off of there. So again, it was right around back here somewhere, but this basically this bearish TK cross that you see here, so this blue Tenkin bearishly crossing below your yellow Kijun here, so that was kind of giving us a heads up, right? So you see how we have these forecasting dots here kind of telling you where your TK lines are heading, as far as like where those trending to be. This was giving us a heads up as price was running into cloud. So it was basically back here. If I just did a replay, I guess it kind of give you an idea of what we were looking at. Maybe something like this, where I think it was probably like almost exactly right here. It's pretty close, probably within a candle or two. But anyway, we just had an edge to edge complete. Price literally came all the way up to the edge of the 12-hour cloud. Nice rejection off of there, and obviously had a pretty significant move to the downside. And now kind of like what this is showing you here is not only is price below cloud, obviously your Chiku span's below cloud. Cloud's still bullish though, which is something that I pointed out. But your TK lines here telling you, hey, price below cloud, Chiku span below. You're obviously closing candles, you're opening and closing candles below cloud, and you have your bearish TK cross. So this is bearish. This is a bad sign. And then obviously time-wise, right? Because cloud is forecast ahead. So this is future support and resistance. I was saying, hey, very likely a place where, you know, if we do run into the cloud, that we're gonna pick a side. And if you look at what your TK lines are telling you, it's telling you that down is more likely than up. But in this case, if you were to break up, basically you have your Kumo twist here. This is kind of a weak point in the cloud where price can easily kind of like make its way through, starts to break above, then hey, things would actually start to look a lot better. But in this particular instance, again, basically looking to the downside here, like this is, you know, sideways and lower. So if we were to play it and kind of see what happened there, right? TK lines started getting really aggressive. And then what happened? Price literally came right into the cloud, and then you have your big move to the downside. All right. So I'm going to exit out of this now that we kind of see that and kind of like what we were looking for there. But yeah, and here's basically your 12 hour still. Cloud's bearish now. This is full bearish, and this doesn't look very good at the moment. So one thing that, again, why I like the 12 hour as well, so it gave you a bit of heads up here, right? TK cross, price is kind of working its way sideways, price comes in just literally into cloud and moves to the downside. Back here, same thing. You had your leg down, bearish trend, you had your range get put in here. What happens? Get kind of like your TK lines, you get bullishly crossed here, and then you get this. So this is your bearish TK recross below cloud. Nasty. And then look at that move, right? So if you kind of envision this, you go back to what you know, you look at this candle right here where you're getting your TK cross confirmed, and then it's just instant, right? Like this is a very strong trending move to the downside before forming this range that we've been in. And then again, kind of the same signal, bearish TK cross here, like I already went over. So that's the 12 hour. Now, what I just said here, where you have your bearish TK recross below cloud, let's go to a higher time frame, which is the daily. And this is what this is flashing to us right now, potentially. So this is like kind of like the critical important thing as far as Bitcoin goes that I'm paying a lot of attention to, that I think does carry quite a bit of weight, is we've kind of, right, we had our impulsive move down, had your range, price was, I mean, not even close, didn't even get mean reverted here. If you even look back here, bearish TK cross, price goes below cloud, and it's just it's like full on bearish trend again, right? This is the same thing. Like this is very similar. This is a very powerful signal actually. So we have again impulsive move down, trends very, you know, very strongly to the downside. Putting in a consolidation here allows your TK lines to reset, and now this signal here is telling you again that we might be ready to trend. So if this crosses bearish, which over the next looks like 3, 4, 5 days, something like that, looks rather likely at the moment that this is going to confirm, unless Bitcoin gets like a really big leg up here in the next day or two, something like that, which is possible. Could potentially undo this, I guess. You have to have a pretty substantial move up, but at the end of the day, like, this is looking kind of likely that this this is definitely something I would be paying attention to. If this confirms, I would be looking for a continuation to the downside. This right here gives me a little bit more conviction, I guess, if you will, that we're actually going to come back and test a bit lower. Doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily like go down to 10K or anything off of this move, but it's not a bullish signal. Let's just say that. It's if you're bullish, look away, because this isn't really what you want to see. So in the meantime, though, what would actually be pretty nice, what I would like, and I think it would give a pretty good entry, is if you actually got a push up here. That, again, that's kind of like, I'll give a little bit of hopium. I don't know, like, if that's enough for the bulls, because they've been severely punished this year, obviously. Like, you look at this nasty trend, right? But kind of like what I would say is like maybe like a lower time frame bullish case is actually finding we actually came into pretty nice support here at 19.5. Actually had a swing failure pattern here. It doesn't show on the USDT. It actually didn't do it, but on the USD pair, so I'm trading on the Bybit chart, so the Bitcoin USD pair that actually did give you that SFP of the low, that was a really nice catch if anybody saw that. But at the moment, a push up, kind of like retest this zone. So like if I was to draw a little like SR zone here, it would probably look something like this. If I was to kind of like draw this across, so this basically like a retest up into zone, right, where all of these highs are. So you had price loss cloud, impulsive move to the downside, get a bit of retracement, resistance, 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 resistance. By the way, what's your resistance? It's literally your Kijun, okay? And then another move to test again. Well, wasn't able to reclaim anything, rather weak bounce here, and then you take another leg lower. So what would be, in my opinion, a pretty nice opportunity, if we were given this opportunity, is actually a push back up and a test back into this zone again, running into, kind of like testing into this TK cross if it's going to come, right? I mean, I think it's very likely it's going to happen. It's like almost certain that it's going to happen at this point. But any kind of a push up into the zone, I think, is probably going to get heavily faded. It's talking 21, mid 21, possibly up to like 22K, something like that. I think that would be a really nice scenario, especially if you got something crazy where you even got to push up and maybe you run these highs and then price starts to break down. That would be, in my opinion, a very, very nice short opportunity, not financial advice, with a very easy invalidation if that was to happen. So again, it's a little push up, something like this. Run these highs and then kind of like get shut down here. And then at that point, invalidation, whatever the high is, and you'd probably be looking for at least a run to test, kind of like test these lows. On my lines are really ugly. I apologize about that. I really hate that paintbrush. But something like that, right? Like that's kind of like, I guess, give a little bit of hopium to the bulls. But ultimately, this signal, this is not bueno. This is not, this is, if you're bullish, this is not what you want to see. If you're continuing to ride the trend, which if you look at what's taken place in 2022, it's obvious, we're obviously in a bear market at this point. We're obviously bearish. And it's not, don't step in front of this trend. Be very careful is what I would say. Like, be very careful. Like, and I know like everybody's trying to long every single low, every single push down. People get really bullish saying that's the bottom and we're going to go to new highs. And they just keep getting wrecked over and over and over and over again. To be fair, you say it enough times, it's going to be right eventually. Okay. You're going to be right eventually. So if you've been saying it, that the low's been in since 40, 50K or whatever, then you keep saying it, eventually it's going to be right. But unfortunately, I do think that we have, in my opinion, I do think that we have not found our lows yet for the year. That's my opinion. But, and the technicals here, they're kind of agreeing with that. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, again, very bearish here. And that's basically how, as far as my trading bots goes, which I'm probably going to get into here in just a second, that's essentially like with the trend in mind, kind of like positioning myself, as far as those like passive bots that I run, to try to obviously like have them do as good of a job as they can do. So we'll get into that in just a second. But that's Bitcoin. I guess, one chart that I think is really interesting that I probably will cover very quickly. I'm going to jump into NASDAQ here. So a little bit of a switch. Obviously, there's quite correlated. And I just think it's really interesting to kind of give you a sense as far as traditional markets goes, like what kind of like, you know, again, like how's the technicals look there, and kind of what is that saying, and how does that trading plan also lead into not only obviously how I trade crypto, but as far as the bots goes, it's very similar, right? So let's look at that very quickly. So that's going to be here. So I'm going to try to get through this very quickly because I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. Chart's a little bit messy, but I think a lot of like what's here is actually quite relevant. If you're in VIP, you're well aware of this chart. You probably can skip this part because we cover it every live stream that we do for the most part. But I think this chart's been very good, and I'll keep saying that. This is something that, again, if you're VIP, you know, like we have nailed this. We've nailed this very well. And as far as the pivots go, as far as, you know, like support resistance goes, we've done incredibly well here. So I just wanted to cover this very briefly for anybody who might not have it might not be up to date about this. But essentially, this is your top. Okay, so this is the top back, you know, November of last year, where we made our final high on NASDAQ, and you know, basically took an expansion, so a Fibonacci expansion. I can't remember if that video is out. I think it is. I think it's public available. If it's not, it will be very shortly. In fact, you know, probably as soon as I'm done uploading this, maybe in the morning, I'll make another video public. But yeah, either way. So the 1.618 expansion. So basically looking from this swing low to the all-time high, two very important pivots, right? This is literally your last low here up until the all-time high. You're looking for an expansion. Once this low gets taken, then the expansion becomes valid. Okay, so the 1.618, which is a very important number. So if you're not familiar with Fibonacci, I do have an entire series on that, which I will be releasing. Some of it is already released, but 1.618, which basically was this low, very close. It's just a hair off, right? But coming into this, actually this key level was the low. It was like the exact low, funny enough, which was basically just this series of lows here, right? So you had basically support, and then the right off of this, you got another very strong trending move off of that. So this, like basically these lows is very important. But you had the nice 1.618 Fibonacci expansion confluence coming in with this key level here, which by the way, marked off this low. So this was kind of your first pivot, right? So we had our all-time high, a little bit of range get put in, range starts to break down, comes into this massive support area before you get a huge rally up to where? Well, that's interesting. The golden pocket. So again, not familiar with Fibonacci, I encourage you to watch my Fibonacci series because I dive really deep into all this stuff and why it's important. But again, basically taking it from all, it's not going to matter if I took it from the all-time high or this high. This is basically where the cascading move starts, you know, your impulsive move to the downside starts. That's why I picked this one. It's not going to make any difference. But anyway, you take it from this high down to your low off of this key level, and you have a bearish fib retracement right into where the golden pocket rejected off of there, makes your second touch point here on this trend line as well, and nice confluence with your uptrend value area high. So again, this huge uptrend, the value area high of that, nice confluence for another move to the downside. Well, again, if you're VIP, you know that we took our Fibonacci based off of this, and now you have your third pivot, right? So you can take a Fibonacci extension off of this high. So using these same two pivots that we used for the bearish retracement, and then you add in this pivot now that you know that this high is in, and that gives you your target down here. So you see it now, we're on to this section. So it might be hard, hopefully you're following along okay. But anyway, the 1-to-1 off of that extension came into this low, and also the 1.618 expansion from this low to high. And look at that, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful support. Nice bounce off of that before ultimately rolling over, making a slightly new low into this monthly level. My goodness, like really good, right? So kind of down to this green zone that I had here. And that has been, like that is the low for NASDAQ at the moment. And a monster rally off of that. Massive rally, okay? So keep with me, I'm almost done. And then now you have this previous high into this new low. Now you can pull your bearish fib retracement just like we did here. Same thing. Where's the high? Well, that's strange. Golden pocket. Did you have any confluence there? Yeah, it was the uptrend point of control. So you had the uptrend value area high here. You had the point of control here. into your golden pocket, into your anchored VWAP from all-time high into this key level, which if you are in VIP again, we are looking at running these highs, right? So as NASDAQ was pushing up, we have this kind of red SR zone here saying, hey, if we get a push above here into this resistance and we start to lose it, that's probably a really good sign. Now we shorted this, so I shorted this. And that's again VIP, but outstanding. And we've got a nice push. Again, that's been like another pivot. Now, taking what we know, I know, again, maybe it's confusing, but if you want to learn this stuff, again, the modules are out there, or if this particular one isn't, it will be very shortly. You can already come up, just like we did here, where we had this point, and this point, right? These 3 points. Now you have this point, and this point. So you can do another extension pull, can't you? So here are the new targets. Now I will say this monthly level here this is very critical support. So if we do work its way down, which I think is pretty good probability over time that we're going to come and at least take these lows, I think it's very, very probable over time. Again, it does not necessarily mean that we're going to come down here immediately. I just think over time, there's a very high probability that this low gets taken. And again, we at least test into this green zone, but below that, for me, this 1-to-1, okay, which again, I already showed you how I got that. It's basically a 1-to-1 extension of how this this particular move that we measured out here is coming in below 10K, so below 10,000, actually at 95.59. So again, these levels have been super good. And then your 1.618 expansion here, which is taken from this low to this high. Again, if this low gets taken, then the expansion, you start looking for the expansion targets. And they're very close together, just like this one was, right? So these have been phenomenal opportunities. Obviously, if we come into this region, I'm going to be looking for some kind of reaction off of here, right? Be looking for some kind of bounce. But again, this has been an incredibly technical chart. And it's very important to me because, again, you know, as if NASDAQ is bearish and it's this bearish and it's you know, you have like your pretty clear pivots, that's, again, kind of knowing when you're coming into major massive resistance here and you're likely to get a pullback. That's usually doesn't bode well for cryptos. That's why, in my opinion, this is why I like to know kind of what this chart is doing. So that's NASDAQ. And, you know, I wanted to cover it because I will be covering it in future updates. So that way it kind of hopefully get you caught up a little bit here. But I will be covering this in future updates as well. I will be monitoring this chart and see how it does. So that's NASDAQ. Let's get into the trading bot update. All right, so this is the 3 commas dashboard, right? It's basically where all my deals are. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with this by now, but if you aren't, this is the dashboard where, again, all of the bots are, and this kind of give you a snapshot for how you're doing. You know, like this is where all your statistics are going to be for the most part. I will be doing some new bot videos soon. I know that, again, this is something that I've obviously wanted to do. It's just I got kind of busy, and then again, it got into summer mode and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that stuff finally. But anyway, so this is 3 commas. If you're not familiar with that, I have all kinds of videos on how to get started, and you know, like all kinds of different tutorials. So definitely look through my YouTube channel and you will find them. But you know, at the moment, you can kind of look around. Today's profit, 74 bucks. I think well, it's literally midnight my time. It just turned midnight. So daily, that's been 7 hours. It's just 7 hours old at the moment. As far as when daily open was. So far 74 bucks in 7 hours total profit. And I reset this. I reset this on January 1st. So this is going to be year to date. So what is today? August 31st. This is the total amount of profit year to date. So I've made almost $58,000 profit, and that's in so kind of like I guess the first thing that I will talk about. So forgive me, I'm a little rusty doing these updates, but the first thing that I'm going to talk about and mention kind of strategy wise that I think is very important, that's been the case for not only since the beginning of the year, but really for at least the last year or so, is that all of my bot deals, the majority of the bot deals have been taking profit in in USD. So I think that's first of all, right? If the market's trending lower, if you'll remember when I was running these in 2020, 2021, obviously the market was trending to the upside very heavily. So the majority of my deals that I was doing there was taking profit in crypto because I wanted the exposure to the upside as well, right? If you take profit in USD or you take profit in fiat, it's relatively stable, and you're going to get your profit from the deal. But then if the asset continues to move to the upside, then you could, if you're not going to be continuing to gain value, is kind of the point. In this type of market, when things are very bearish, obviously we just went over, we went over Bitcoin. You look at just look at Ichimoku there, which I guess I can probably go back here just to like reiterate why I feel the way that I do. But I mean, I guess I could do that right here. So again, if you look at cloud, right, price hasn't been above cloud, which is basically the sign that you need to see for a bullish trend. Price needs to be above cloud. That's number one. Price has not been above cloud since November of last year, almost a year now. The last time price was above cloud was all the way here, almost 60K, right? High 50s, almost 60K. It's been below cloud ever since. What has price done? Gone down. Is price anywhere near the top of cloud? No, not remotely. And I already just went over this signal about why, like, this is a bear signal that we're looking at, right? As long as this is the case, if I have bought deals that are in progress, the profits that I make from those deals, I really don't want to be taking that in crypto. Because if I think the trend is likely to continue, which I do, why would I want exposure to an asset that's going to decline in value as time goes on, right? Like that's how it's been the entire year. So now going back to this, I have recently started some of the bot deals that I am taking profit in crypto. So I will be open about that. But I just started doing that recently because we're so far off the highs, right? We're getting to a point, especially on alts, where it's interesting to me to build positions at these levels. With the understanding that there could be a risk of seeing substantially lower prices than we even are today, right? But that's a risk that I'm willing to take for those pairs that I'm starting to take profit in crypto because I want to make those bags bigger, okay? So I have started to take some profit in crypto, again, just because we're so far off the highs. And I think that we're getting to a point where I'm okay with that exposure. Like I'm okay. And again, this is like trading bots. This is like a small part of my portfolio. So it's like, like if this is basically what I did in 2020, 2021, and like actually, built a pretty nice, did a fairly good job. So similar strategy for me. But so far it's been taking taking all the profit, which if you can look here. So this is completed deals profit for this year, right? Year to date. You look at the USD. I don't know why this says this. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember why it only says 3.22 EOS. But anyway, so you look at the USD, almost 47,000. You look at the USDT. So again, when I'm trading USDT pairs, profits over 10,000. You add those up. That's like 56, close to 57,000. You get the point. That's almost all of the profit. Like, so the majority of it, you can see, I just started taking profit in basically the base pair, right? But the majority of it has been in USD. Why? Because that's what I want to accumulate. So that's, again, as the market is moving to the downside, which has been the case, that's what I want to build because that's not necessarily going down in value. Maybe you can kind of make an argument for it. Start talking about other things like inflation and whatnot. But anyway, you get the point. Try to keep it simple. So basically, at the moment, that's where we're at. 57, almost 58,000 profit. And I have some deals that are still stuck. I think I have like 5 deals left that are like that are deals that I've had for probably, I think, like longer than 4 or 5 months, something like that. You look at the USD over here. Again, this is kind of like what I have reserved, what I have available. And so really quickly, I've had a couple people ask about this. I don't know like necessarily how these are calculated because they don't seem right. They used to be really good, but I don't know if it's something 3 commas did or whatnot, but like this isn't like super accurate as far as like it's supposed to tell you like if you've like increased in Bitcoin value, increased in ETH value, and then like USD value, how much it's up or down. This is like, these numbers are kind of strange. But anyway, and another thing about this is like, this isn't necessarily like, this is not like how much I have in my bot deals. So be very clear. That's what you have tied to the exchanges. So basically whatever API connections you have like to your exchanges, whatever the balances are of those exchange accounts, that's what it reflects here. It doesn't have anything to do necessarily with like what I have in the bots or like what I'm going to use for the bots or whatnot. Like this is just like whatever's connected to there is what's connected to there. So I would not pay attention to what's going on up here because that's honestly, that's kind of irrelevant. So just to make that clear, like that's kind of irrelevant. It has nothing to do with kind of like what we're looking at here. I mean, it's somewhat relevant, but it's not, you know, again, like it doesn't mean everything there is being used for bots. It's not the case. But because I have quite a few exchanges or like funds that are not tied into 3 commas, I don't want everything tied to it, right? If it doesn't need to be tied to it, I don't tie to it. So like other trading accounts that I have that I don't use 3 commas for, like I don't have that stuff linked to here, so it's not going to show. It's kind of the point. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at, 58K. How do I feel about that? Well, I would say for doing nothing, right? Like this is kind of like what I've talked about in previous videos. Like, I mean, it's $58,000 for doing nothing in a massively bearish market that's moved to the downside. And not only stocks, you know, like not only traditional markets, but in crypto, obviously crypto has been even more extended to the downside. But overall, like I guess like I'm feeling pretty good about it. Could it be better? I mean, it's not as good as it was obviously the previous couple of years when you know things were moving to the upside. But at the end of the day, you know, as long as the balance is growing in the right direction and you're actually, you know, making money in this kind of environment, I guess I'm okay with that. So that's kind of like my short answer to that. I think at the moment I have 21 active deals. So what does this mean? This means that I have 21 bots running. Currently, I think 11, I'd say over half of them are short, meaning that again, I'm benefiting if things are moving to the downside, which has been, again, like short bots have always done really well this year. I've done a video, one of the last trading bot videos that I did, tutorials I did was on short bots. But yeah, definitely a lot of short bots. I am running some long bots. I will say that the long bots that I am running, that I am being very cautious with those. And I am running settings that would allow for a decent amount of downside, because that's, again, like you look at the type of market that we're in, and there's no reason for me to think that, you know, we've seen the low and that, you know, now's the time to turn the jets on and get super aggressive with bots. I don't think that that's the case, especially again, if you're looking just to trade long bots. I don't think that that's necessarily something that I'd be willing to like put a ton of money into and say, hey, we're here, like I'm gonna get super aggressive here. I do have some exposure. The long bots have definitely been slower, but like they've still been closing deals. It's just been a bit on the slower side for sure. It's definitely been a tough, you know, it's been a tough year. Again, you look at the trend. The trend's very clear, right? Don't fight the trend. That's what I'll say. But I think that we are getting ever so closer to a point where I think that will be the case. It's kind of like, I guess that's what I'll say. Like the deeper we go, and I'm talking about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's the king. So whatever, you know, like you can kind of like base, you know, crypto in general off of what Bitcoin is doing. The deeper that we get, you know, the further off the all-time high we get, the more aggressive I'll start to get. So right now at the moment, I'd say I'm not very aggressive. And kind of like one thing as well is like some of the deals have taken months to close. Some of the ones that got really deep, they took months to close, but the majority of them have. So one other thing that I've said, that I say time and time again, is be patient. Obviously I have a lot of patience compared to most people, just by the nature of like how I run these bots. And like, they're very passive, right? So like, I don't like check these every single day. I don't care what they're doing, for the most part. Although like with the short bots, I am having to change the strategies, a bit more frequently, just because of where I think that we are kind of in you know, in terms of, kind of like what type of strategy I want to use for my short bots. But you know, I would say that again, kind of the deeper that we get, the more to the long side that I'll start to look, right? And the thing is, like this period that we've been in, which is, you know, the last year has been pretty brutal, right? In terms of, like, again, for everybody who's hyper bullish over the last year, it probably hasn't had a very good time. Especially anybody who's been very aggressive with their bots. I can imagine that there's probably some people stuck in some pretty nasty deals, right? So one thing that I thought about, that, you know, I don't know if it's interesting enough for people, we can definitely do. We could do some live streams or something like that where we kind of go through people's bot deals and see like what we would do to manage it. And obviously, like, I can't give advice or anything like that, but that's something that we do in VIP from time to time. We haven't had to do it in a while because I think we've kind of gone over everybody's deals, because VIP is only so big, right? But that's one exercise that we've done in the past, and I think is quite helpful, right? So you kind of integrate technical analysis with trading bots and try to see like what might be the more optimal way to handle that situation, right? So maybe that's something we can do. If anybody's interested in that, you can comment below and say, hey, like, let's do a live stream, and that would be something that we probably could do. But I'm trying to think. So I talked about my bots. So overall strategy, again, the short bots, kind of like one thing that I've done. So I believe in the video where I cover short bots, I talk about heavily front loading your initial base order, right? So on something like this, you can kind of see right here. So my vet bot, right? This is just like a small vet bot that I have running, but you look at your initial base order here. Okay. So I'm actually looking at the screen now. So you look at the initial order, it's 5,000 vet, but then the first safety order, it starts at 1,075. So again, your initial base order is larger because it covers like more of the amount that, you know, it's again heavier. That way, if we're trending lower and we're trending in an aggressive manner, you want to try to cover as much of your portfolio as possible. And again, everybody's going to have different strategy, but like you want to cover a fair amount of, you know, whatever altcoin you have that you're doing this with, because you want to try to protect that value, right? Because again, as price is dropping down, unless you're trading 100% of your position, the USD value of this altcoin is also moving to the downside, right? So that's like kind of the negative effect of holding a position to begin with, like holding anything to begin with. So like with these altcoin holdings that I have, that I am running short bots on, again, like they're spot holdings that I've had for a long time now. Most of these are the remnants of like trading profits that I've chose to just keep in that altcoin instead of, you know, just trading it out for USD. So like that's what these are. So that strategy might not apply to a lot of people. And yeah, like if you're really good at timing the market and you just want to like try to sell because you think that we're going to crash or we're going to go heavily lower, then yeah, like you could obviously sell and look to buy, you know, later on. But I think for most people, especially those of you who don't have time, which I think is like a lot of people, you know, like you're trying to do things a bit passive instead of just letting your bag sit there and lose 80% of its value like a lot of these altcoins have. At least you could be creating value on the way down, right? I mean, so again, that's kind of what I would say about that. But so the strategy here, base order, heavy base order, smaller safety orders, I am switching that. I have been kind of switching that up a little bit because I think, again, like the heavy trending move to the downside, while I don't think that that's necessarily over, I think we're nearing a place where I can be a bit more, I can, you know, switch the strategy up a little bit. I don't have to have essentially like such a huge base order. Now I'll be looking for kind of, you know, kind of like incorporating more of the selling into the back end of the safety orders to try to like maximize how much cash essentially that you be selling this into. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. If it does, you can ask me, or so if it doesn't, you can ask me. But I have been kind of changing my strategy around that. And that's something that I just started doing. Just to kind of like test and see how it's working. Because again, like overall, I feel pretty good about, you know, how like these bags have done this year. And that's just kind of like one of the strategies that I've kind of changed. But I will say like that worked pretty well. And again, like on the way down when we were, again, you just go back to Bitcoin, you look at this nasty move to the downside. A lot of charts look a lot worse than this, right? A lot of the altcoins are like very, very, very bad. So like if you have been shorting that, Okay, so like you think of it like a synthetic short where you're like selling it and then buying at a lower price. Okay, so like that's basically how the spot short bots work. But if you have something that's moving to the downside and you're selling a pretty substantial portion of that bag as it's moving to the downside, then yeah, I'd say like again, you're doing pretty well. But kind of what I've noticed as well with the spot short bots, I guess maybe any short bots, but like the ones that I've had in particular, one thing that I've noticed too is in periods like this, they also work really well. So it's not just, you know, you're looking for price to move one direction and that's the only time you're going to make money. Even in periods of consolidation, even in periods like this where you kind of have nice, you know, retracements to the upside, I guess you're getting is, you know, you're getting like those pullbacks, if you will. And alts have, you know, 100% rally, like some of them rally like pretty hard. Then, you know, again, those bots are doing it, they're doing deals as well while you're in these types of environment. Like to me, it's they've done relatively well. So, you know, I guess I would have been smart to actually like try to get some questions that I can answer for people before I did this update. But I guess that just means I probably need to do another update, maybe with some actual questions from people. That way I can have it be a little bit more structured. But I just thought I'd want to talk a little bit about kind of how my bots have been. And again, like I think can't be too, you know, can't complain too much about how they've done because of the type of year that we've had. But they, you know, it's definitely not, you know, I'm not, you know, I don't know if it's gonna, I mean, it's not gonna match like the performance that it was last year. I'll just put it that way. But again, it's better than nothing. So I think as if I had to pick, you know, again, am I making enough to warrant having a subscription and my time, I would say yes. But you know, again, like this stuff again is run automatically. It's run passively. I rarely touch it. So to me, it's better than just having money sitting around not doing anything. But like in the meantime, like I've been trading a ton, which has been great. So like that's like the bulk of, you know, the income that I get from trading. That's heavily the bulk of it is the actual trading that I do. Again, like the stuff that we talk about, VIP, that type of stuff. But like that I've been trading that a lot more this year, which is great, and especially lately, kind of like why I've been taking a bit of time away. So it's been kind of nice. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to cover. Like if there's anything specifically, talked about kind of like the strategies that I have. Some of these are like really new that like I thought I would kind of give a shot. But you know, again, as far as my long bots goes, I'm trying to remember if this video went out or not. Like if I gave the exact settings for like what I was doing. What I'll just say is this, like for me, if you're looking at, so like if I was to start right now, clean slate, I've never done trading bots before. Like, is this something that I would get myself into? You know, like knowing what I know, I would maybe be a little bit patient if I didn't, you know, depends, I guess it depends on like your capital that you have available and kind of like, again, your mindset. Like if you're coming in here and you need to kill it every single day, I don't think this is probably like a good venue at the moment. But like if you're patient and you know, like I am, and you just, you know, can put some funds to work and you have the understanding that like we're in a period where things are naturally just going to be a bit on the slow side, then I don't think we're in like a terrible place to get started. Just again, just due to the nature of like how deep of a move we've had. That doesn't mean that it's over, but you know, we are substantially off our highs. Alts got absolutely destroyed. You know, like if you're using conservative settings like I tend to use, so a lot of the examples with previous videos that I've done, these different settings that I'm running now, like if you are using conservative settings and you're fully capitalized and you're not like getting crazy, you know, you're not like, you know, running insane levels of risk, that, you know, if alts were to have a 20% move to the downside, you'd be absolutely destroyed. As long as you're, you know, as long as I would say that you're doing things from a conservative perspective and you have, again, like you have kind of patience with that and like understanding of like the current market, then it's not a terrible place to start. That's what I'd say. And like I do, again, I have long bots running now, that are active and they're actively closing deals and that type of stuff. It's definitely slower than it was in the massive, bull market that we had. But I think it's, as far as the capital that I have allocated towards trading bots that I don't touch, I'm okay with that. And I'm, it's okay what they've done so far. So that's what I'll say. Again, particular questions, if there's anything specifically that you'd like me to cover or like get into details on, I will just go ahead and ask me, and again, either in Discord or on Telegram or just the comment section here. And then, I'm happy to do that. I am probably going to do some new videos very soon that are similar to kind of like the how-to videos that I've done with the trading bot. So like you think about like the first video, probably like the most popular video that got people into looking at stuff. I'm probably going to do a rework of that just because of how many changes there have been since I've done that video. So like an updated version on 3 commas with like the new features, that type of stuff. I probably will do a redo of that and, go over, I would say, more current strategies. Maybe we can actually set up some DCA bots with kind of like more current strategies. So if that's interesting to people, that's something I can do. It just takes a lot of time on my end, but that's okay. And then I'm, kind of rambling at this point, but I'm trying to make sure that I try to cover as much as I can while I'm here. But that's basically, I think that's kind of what I wanted to cover. So going forward, if you made it this far in the video, let me know in the comments. I always like to know who actually makes it to like this deep in the video, like the unmarked parts, But what I'm going to do going forward, again, is just kind of, probably weekly videos on technical analysis, kind of like hopefully helping, let you guys know like what I think, like where I'm at as far as the market goes. Probably stick to higher time frame stuff. That's something that I'm not going to get into this video, but I think a high time frame analysis could be really good, giving you levels of interest below. So I emphasize below, but levels of interest below, and then obviously as price moves, kind of like sharing what my trading plan looks like. And then with the bots, I'll probably just be focused on, again, if there's questions that people have, I'm happy to answer them. If there's, with the new content and stuff, I'm probably going to do a few redo videos just to kind of like refresh, considering those videos are like, they're old now. I think they're like year and a half old or something like that. So I'll probably do a bit of a refresh there. And then some of the new features that, 3 commas has, I think it could be rather interesting. So anyway, I think that's it. I'm going to leave you off here, and we'll see you on the next video. Y'all take care now.